what's up? Today what I'm going to be giving my 2 cents on is Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade suicide. And when I heard about Kate Spade committing her suicide, I was really shocked, because I don't want to say you never think of, but you don't really think of people often committing suicide. And I love her handbags, and so when I heard that, I was like, oh. And so then people were like, she left a suicide note to her 13-year-old daughter, and I don't know how true it is, whatever, but I know they said that she left a note saying something to the effect of, I've always loved you. This is not your fault. Ask Dad. And then as the days went by, news articles and I guess, news articles or whatever were saying that I think she was dealing with depression, and that her husband had divorced her and was living in a separate house, and she didn't want a divorce, And so if you have mental health issues and you don't really want to be divorced, because I would never want to be divorced from my husband, so I could see that if you already have mental issues, or I can see it kind of breaking you down. And hold up. I can see that breaking you down and making you feel like you want to maybe die, but then you have to think of that 13-year-old and the people that love you and who is going to hurt when you make such a final decision. And then I heard of Anthony Bourdain, and they were saying that he talked about that he had a lot of demons, and and I'm like, wow, he gave up, and it did something to my heart, because a few days ago Kate Spade committed suicide, and I'm like, wow, how can this be the answer? Death is so final. And they say Anthony Bourdain said he had personal demons. I don't know what those demons were, but I'm like, for the family, y'all didn't see the signs. Y'all did not try to get your family members help. And I'm not saying you could force somebody to get help, but you didn't notice that your family member was hurting to the point where they had the tendency to take their life. And I'm not blaming the families, and I'm not blaming Kate or Anthony, but to me, suicide is like so selfish to me. You can't fight for your daughter. You can't fight for the people who love you. And then like Kate Spade, you have a 13-year-old daughter, and you say, ask your father. So this is going to be really tough for her, because not only did you leave her a suicide note, you letting her know it's not your fault. I always loved you, and this is not your fault, but ask Dad. And so that's leaving her, I can't even imagine what type of feelings that she has. But hopefully she don't hate her father, because if I was a 13-year-old, I wouldn't know how to feel about my father after my mother left me a note saying, it's not your fault, go ask Dad. I just think that is death and suicide is really selfish. I feel like if you have children, you should try your hardest to be there for them. It's like you gave up. You quit. Now, you will get tired, but why quit and do something so final? I can remember being younger and sometimes being depressed. Teenage years are hard sometimes. But I never got to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I mean, I've thought about it. I mean, who hasn't? I'll be like, I'll be better off dead, whatever. But I started thinking about my family, and I was like, I don't want my family to hurt like that. I don't want to do that to my family. I can't do that to my family. I don't want to do that to my family. Even just thinking about death in general, I can't think about it because it makes me sad, because I don't want to hurt my family. I'm not saying mental illness isn't real, because it is. I've I know people who dealt with depression, anxiety, or schizophrenia, bipolar, all types of things. And so I'm not saying that it's real, and I'm not being insensitive or unsympathetic or having no empathy or no sympathy. I'm just saying, family, friends, if your loved one can't come and tell you, look, I got this going on, pay attention to the signs, because honestly, they're not strong enough to get help. I just think I feel bad for Kate. I feel bad for Anthony. I just think that suicide is so selfish. Anyway, I'm about to wrap this on up. Y'all always stay unapologetically you. I'm going to always be unapologetically me.